For some reason, people seem to hate Beequeen as a boss fight. They dread even trying to fight it because the way she works. The constant minion spam leads to no ability to get damage in as a normal character. So much so that the current tactic people employ is either spamming status effects such as the Pamphlet or Flingos, or to use a bunch of minions and traps in order to completely ignore dealing with her. The main hatred comes from her minion spawning. She spawns grumbles endlessly, causing people problems, and if a solo player tries to kill them, she would just spawn more. Because of this, it causes players to believe that Beequeen is basically impossible as any character without AoE. The boss does everything it can to make you not engage with it by having a fast attack speed, punishing bad approaches with her honey trail, and overwhelming the player with her grumbles. But is it really the reason why people hate her? Is it just because Beequeen counters the standard methods of fighting the game teaches us to do? Or is it more that we are adverse to using resources? There are many problems that can be cited as to why people hate this boss. One problem I think people have with Beequeen is that you're almost guaranteed to take damage. With other bosses, you can practice up and learn up the fight and reduce the amount of resources you use to complete the fight. But with Beequeen, there is always a resource tax you have to pay if you want the fight to go any faster. And I think it's just the idea of how much resources you need in order to be Beequeen with a normal character is what scares people away. On average, it would look something like this. You need 40 pierogi, 5 beekeeper hats, a walking cane, 15 roads, and 4 panflutes. People look at that list and they think, damn, I'm gonna have to really waste a lot of resources, and then they never end up doing the fight. And so they never learn the fight. That is why a lot of setups make it so you basically just don't engage with the fight at all. If you don't use a setup, people boil down the fight to spamming flutes in order to get damage in, or spending a lot of time walking Beequeen around. But the thing is, there are way more resources at your disposal that can make the fight so much more easier than what most guides will tell you. The fight actually gets much easier the more you play the game, and the more access to resources you have. Plus, you don't just have one way to do the fight. You can combine different methods to be able to combat her. Dealing with Beequeen is not as easy as other bosses, where a player can just roll up with a few weapons and armors and expect to succeed. This doesn't really matter when playing multiplayer because multiplayer is just overpowered. But solo Beequeen really tests your resolve and problem solving skills, and that's what I think is great about Beequeen. The way to approach her is not like any other boss, and it varies from character to character. Every single character has a different approach for how to deal with Beequeen, either using their own abilities or tools that exist within the game. Even tools people may not even think about using can be useful in this fight. You can call it cheese or an unsatisfying kill, but I think it's just the thought of how am I going to get an opening to do damage to the queen is really what's fun about this fight. So let's take a look at Beequeen and why she is one of the best bosses of DST. When you approach Beequeen, she is pretty intimidating. She attacks fast, doing 60 damage a hit, and also leaving a slowing honey trail if she hits or misses. This also happens when she is flying around, so try not to get stuck in it. She also has a bunch of bodyguards around here that will aggro onto you so long as you're close enough to Beequeen. Grumbles themselves do 15 damage to players and 30 damage to mobs, and they have 180 HP and are stun lockable. Beequeen herself has a tether range to her hive that is a 15 turf radius. She will not chase the player beyond this range, and you can use this to your advantage in dealing with her phases. Beequeen's phases are important to know because they change up how you approach the fight. In the first phase of Beequeen, she will spawn 4 to 5 grumbles and fly towards the player. She will not spawn more grumbles until everyone under her command dies. So for this phase, it's good to just leave one grumble alive and tank and try to do as much damage as possible. After a set amount of damage, she will screech at the player and then she enters phase 2. In phase 2, she spawns 2 waves of grumblebees. You basically cannot kill the grumbles in this phase by yourself, so you need to find another method to get your attack opportunities. This is the most difficult phase of the fight. Oftentimes people use flutes in order to get a few hits in before she wakes up her grumbles. She'll always do this pattern of waking up, flying away, and waking up her grumbles. You can do this to get a really good amount of damage in. You can also walk Beequeen down a road to the edge of her tether range because she is faster than the grumbles and she will outrun them, giving you an opportunity to do damage. Her third and fourth phase are also marked by her screeching. She stops chasing the player directly and instead sits nearby waiting for the player to come close to her to attack, and she is now able to command grumbles towards the player at a fast pace. During her command, grumbles will do 20 damage. You will only really need a road to avoid taking damage from her attack, but that's only if there's not that many grumbles chasing after you. You may want to be careful on this phase because if Beequeen gets too far away from her grumbles, they will lose connection with her, meaning she will just spawn more as you get close to her. This range is about 50 units or 12.5 tiles. You can use this attack to get Grumbles away from Beequeen so you can have time to attack Beequeen. And her fourth phase will increase the frequency she commands the Grumbles, so you may have less time to attack. And she will just repeat this until dead. That's the common method that people will often do trying to fight Beequeen. But now let's get on to some interesting stuff. Like most mobs, Beequeen doesn't path around walls. She instead just flies directly to the player. This can be used to separate her from her Grumbles because her Grumbles need to follow the logic of the wall. She can also be blocked by standard creatures, which is unique to her, whereas her Grumbles will not be body blocked by any creature. Beequeen's aggro is also pretty interesting in that she does not lose aggression from the player. She only swaps target if she gets hit while the player is too far away. If Beequeen is near the player, she will be more inclined to attack the player instead of whatever is attacking her. That is about it for Beequeen's logic. Grumbles, however, are actually what's interesting. They kinda just act like normal bees most of the time. They don't body block the player, but they will body block themselves. They also have a stacking resistance to sleep and freeze, meaning you need more ice blast to freeze them every time they unfreeze, and they also don't sleep as long when you use the pan flute consistently. They will also path around walls instead of going through them. You can use this to your advantage by having a gate and walls set up so you can have a path that Beequeen will ignore and a path that Grumbles will have to follow, giving the player more time to be able to attack the Beequeen. However, if Grumblebees fly too far, they will become untethered from Beequeen, making the queen spawn new ones. Normally this is bad because she just spawns in more and you're in trouble pretty quickly, but untethered Grumbles are interesting as they are no longer controlled by Beequeen. Untethered Grumbles will still chase the player if you get within 16 units of them, and they will chase endlessly until you get about 10 turfs away. These Grumbles will follow normal bee aggro, where they will aggro anything that attacks bees. That also includes Beequeen. A method I found out you can do to fight Beequeen is to actually make her bees fight against her. You set up a wall that is about 50 wall segments from each side of the Beequeen, so 100 walls in length. Make a cage on one side so the Grumbles don't fly away and unload, and you place 2 animals that won't aggro Beequeen. And she will just be blocked in while they spawn Grumbles and they path away and become unlinked. And then you just have to wait for Beequeen to build up her army. A day's worth of Grumbles is usually good enough to completely kill Beequeen. And in order to trigger this, the player needs Beequeen to attack bees. And it just so happens that we have an item that lets us weaponize bees, which are bee mines. Bee mines don't normally trigger because she's a flying creature. That's where another cool mechanic of Beequeen comes into play. When Beequeen and her Grumblebees fall asleep, they become grounded and are able to trigger traps. Thus, sleeping Beequeen on a bee mine will be able to attack her, making her retaliate. And so you set this up near the Grumbles, sleep her next to them, and just watch as the mutiny happens. Each Grumble actually does 30 damage to Beequeen since they have a modifier, so they're doing a good amount of damage to her. It's just a funny interaction that a person would normally not see. I only got to see this happen on my killing Beequeen with her Grumbles video, and it's such a tight scenario because Grumbles that Beequeen is controlling need to not be aggroed. You can see they are not aggroed because they are standing in formation around Beequeen. Here Beequeen kills a homeless Grumble while her own bees had no aggro, and you can see them start attacking her, thus leading to her demise. It's such a fitting end to that video, and I really wanted to talk about that little scene more because I'm not sure if people noticed. This game is so unique that you're able to combine many methods to be able to take advantage of a creature's abilities. You can run the queen away from her Grumbles to a wall with a gate, and you can make Grumbles fly around and give you a lot of time to be able to attack Beequeen. Plus, you could also have creatures at the end to be able to take out the Grumbles and slow them down, so that you have even more time to attack the queen. Is this resource intensive? Maybe, just for the first time, but after that you are set up for the rest of the world to get royal jelly. Each method can be modified in order to adjust for how much you want to have fun, whether you want to reduce the amount of things you use or just interact with the fight more. There are so many methods the player can use to fight her and her minions, to blocking with walls to just causing a war. Those are just some interesting things that exist for Beequeen. I hope you enjoyed watching this, and make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Till next time, this has been Tara, and take care. I really want to thank anyone who donated to me in the past 2 weeks. I really was surprised, and I was really kind of lost in what I wanted to do. And if it wasn't for a friend of mine who suggested for me to try and ask here on YouTube, I would have never really asked. And since the fact that we got over $500 and I'm actually able to fix up whatever happened to me, I'm just really thankful that there's so much out there and people out there who are really caring. And you guys know who you are, and I don't need to really bring it up, but all the people who has helped me. You really had lit a new fire in my heart. And so this video goes out to you. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy.